What if everything you've ever been told about wealth, success, and freedom was a lie? What if the very beliefs you've clung to were the chains holding you back, keeping you stuck in a never-ending cycle of struggle and scarcity? Close your eyes for just a moment. Imagine a life free from the relentless grip of financial worry. Picture waking up every single day to see over $1,000 manifested from the universe, effortlessly flowing into your bank account. No stress, no struggle, no working yourself to exhaustion just to scrape by. Can you feel it? That weight lifting from your chest? The deep exhale as the endless anxiety about money fades away, replaced by a sense of calm you've never known before. For so many people, maybe even you, this feels like an impossible dream. The weight of overdue bills, the gnawing fear of a maxed out credit card, the dread that comes with seeing the same tired paycheck disappear before it can ever do any good. Sound familiar? Do you feel like no matter how hard you work, it's never enough? Like there's some unseen force keeping you just out of reach from the life you truly deserve? What if I told you, it doesn't have to be this way? You're not here by accident. Something brought you to this exact moment, to this very message, because deep down you know there's more for you. Maybe you've tried everything, budgeting, side hustles, even working 2 or 3 jobs, but the struggle just doesn't end. It's exhausting, frustrating, soul-crushing. But listen closely, because what I'm about to share could change everything. There's a reason why some people seem to have money flow to them effortlessly, while others are stuck chasing it their entire lives. It's not luck, and it's not because they're smarter or harder working than you. The truth is, they've unlocked a hidden source of wealth that most people will never even know exists. And today, right now, you're standing at the door of this secret. All you have to do is step through. And here's the best part. It doesn't matter how much debt you're in, how little you're earning, or how hopeless it might feel right now. Because this works for anyone who's ready to break free from the trap they've been stuck in for far too long. Hi, my name is Kevin Malone, and a few short years ago, my life was nothing short of a complete and utter mess. I wasn't just broke, I was suffocating under the weight of debt, bills, and constant worry. Every paycheck disappeared before it even hit my account, swallowed whole by overdue payments, groceries, and whatever disaster happened to show up that week. It felt like no matter how hard I worked, I was always falling further behind. Like I was running on a treadmill cranked up to max speed, but going nowhere. And the worst part? It wasn't just me who felt the strain. Every time I walked through the door after another exhausting day, my wife was waiting, arms crossed, a look on her face that said everything she didn't need to say out loud. But she said it anyway. Kevin, when are you going to do better? The kids need more. We need more. Can't you just work harder? Can't you do something? Let me tell you, that cut deeper than anything else. I already felt like a failure, like I was letting my family down. I was doing everything I could, giving every ounce of energy I had, and somehow it was never enough. Her words weren't wrong, though. She was just as frustrated as I was, but hearing it every single day broke me a little more inside. And then there's the outside world, constantly rubbing salt in the wound. Social media full of people showing off their vacations, their new cars, their perfect lives, while you're sitting there wondering how you're going to stretch $23 until Friday. Those motivational posts telling you to stay positive or work smarter, not harder. Don't you just want to scream? Because I sure as hell did. I hated my life. I hated the endless cycle of work, stress, and failure. I hated that I was working 12-hour days only to come home to a fridge that barely had enough to get us through the week. I hated feeling like the whole system was rigged against me, designed to keep people like me stuck, while the rich kept getting richer. I'll never forget the lowest point of my life. It was a Tuesday evening, cold, gray, and miserable, much like my bank account. I was sitting in my car parked outside a gas station, trying to figure out if I could stretch $7 into enough gas to get me through the week. My phone buzzed with a notification from my bank, another overdraft fee. That's when I lost it. I slammed my hands on the steering wheel and screamed. It felt like the entire universe was laughing at me, and honestly, I wouldn't have blamed it. I was pathetic. But then, something happened, something that changed everything. One night after yet another argument with my wife about money and responsibility, I decided I needed to get away just for a little while. The weight of everything was too much. My chest felt tight and my mind raced with thoughts I couldn't control. I didn't know where I was going, but I grabbed my car keys, drove out of the city, and kept going until I found myself deep in the countryside, surrounded by nothing but trees and darkness. I parked the car on the side of a desolate road and got out. The air was cold, biting at my skin, but I didn't care. I wanted to be alone, to think, to breathe. I walked into the forest, the crunch of leaves under my feet, the only sound breaking the stillness. The deeper I went, the darker it got, until I could barely see the path ahead. That's when the chill really set in, a biting cold that seemed to seep into my bones. I needed to find shelter, fast. I noticed a faint light flickering in the distance, just beyond the trees. I followed it, and soon enough, I saw it. An old house, its silhouette faintly illuminated by the warm glow of an oil lamp inside. Smoke curled up from the chimney, and as I approached, the faint aroma of something hearty hot soup, maybe wafted toward me. My stomach growled, and without thinking, I knocked on the door. An old man answered. He looked to be in his late 70s with sharp eyes that seemed to see right through me. His aura was different. Not unsettling, but powerful. He didn't say much, just nodded and motioned for me to come inside. Grateful for the warmth, I stepped into the small, rustic home. It was simple, but oddly comforting. He offered me a bowl of soup, and I didn't hesitate. As I sat there eating in silence, the old man finally spoke. "You don't look fine," he said, his voice calm but laced with curiosity. Something about him made it impossible to hold back. Maybe it was the way he listened, completely present, without judgment, or maybe I was just too tired to keep it bottled up anymore. I poured out everything, my struggles, my frustration, my hopelessness. He didn't interrupt. He just nodded occasionally, his expression thoughtful. When I finished, I expected him to give me some kind of advice or a vague platitude about life getting better. But instead, he leaned back in his chair and said something that caught me completely off guard. "In 1969, he began, the world watched as Apollo 11 landed on the moon. 3 men made history, or so the story goes. What the media never told you was that there was a 4th man on that mission. That man was me." I blinked, unsure if I'd heard him correctly. "What are you talking about?" I asked, half skeptical, half curious. He smiled faintly, as if he knew exactly how absurd it sounded. "I was part of the Apollo 11 mission," he said, "but my story was erased, buried by the government because of what I witnessed up there." "What could you have possibly seen that would make them erase you?" I pressed. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "A forbidden anomaly." I sat back, unsure whether to laugh or walk out. But something about the way he said it, the conviction in his voice, made me stay. "You expect me to believe that?" I asked, trying to sound skeptical, but failing miserably. Without another word, the old man Jason, as he later introduced himself, stood up and gestured for me to follow. He led me to a hidden door on the floor, tucked beneath an old rug. Pulling it open, he revealed a staircase leading down to an underground passage. My heart raced as I descended into the dimly lit space, my breath catching when I saw what was inside. The walls were lined with photographs, black and white images of him standing with Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin in full astronaut gear. There were blueprints, notes scrawled with technical diagrams, and strange artifacts that looked like they belonged in a sci-fi movie. But the centerpiece of the room was what truly caught my attention, a machine unlike anything I'd ever seen before. Jason walked over to it and placed a hand on the metallic surface. "This," he said, "is the flight recorder from Apollo 11. Every spacecraft has one, designed to document the mission in detail. What makes this one special is what it recorded." He went on to explain that during the mission, they'd encountered something extraordinary. Frequencies, sounds that didn't belong to Earth. The government called them anomalies, he said, but I knew better. These frequencies had an effect on us, on our minds, our emotions. They were calming, almost euphoric. It was like they were designed to reach something deep within us, something we didn't even know existed. I stared at him, unable to process what he was saying. Why didn't the world ever hear about this? Jason's expression darkened. Because I refused to stay quiet. When we landed back on Earth, I told the truth about what I saw and heard. They warned me to keep my mouth shut, but I didn't listen. So they erased me. The photos, the records, everything. He paused, his eyes locking onto mine. I disappeared with the flight recorder because I couldn't let them destroy it. What's inside this machine? It's powerful. It's something the world isn't ready for. But maybe you are. His words sent a chill down my spine. I didn't know what to say, what to think. All I knew was that my life was about to change forever. Jason leaned against the recording machine. Without a word, he reached over to a control panel on the machine and flipped a switch. The hum deepened, transforming into something more, a sound that was at once strange and soothing, resonating in a way I'd never experienced before. The air seemed to shift, vibrating with a low melodic tone that wrapped around me like an invisible cocoon. My stress, my doubts, my endless worries about money, all of it felt distant, like a bad memory I could barely recall. It was surreal, intoxicating. It doesn't just calm you, Jason said, his voice low, almost a whisper. This sound, it's more than that. It's a key to abundance, to opportunity, to wealth. I felt my breath hitch. Wealth? I repeated, my skepticism flickering against the strange hope blooming inside me. Jason nodded, his sharp eyes piercing into mine. This frequency taps into something most people will never understand, something the human mind is naturally wired to ignore. But once you align with it, once you tune into its rhythm, you don't chase money anymore. Money chases you. This frequency opens a channel, one that brings you everything you need, and more. Money, opportunities, peace. It manifests in ways you can't even imagine. My mind raced. For years I'd struggled and scraped, worked myself to exhaustion just to barely get by. And now this man was telling me that everything I'd ever wanted could come from a sound. I swallowed hard, feeling a strange mix of awe and desperation. But how can I use it? I mean, I can't exactly haul this thing home with me. Jason chuckled, a warm sound that contrasted with the eerie hum of the machine. I've already thought of that. Over the years, I've worked to convert the frequency into something portable. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small object, holding it up to the dim light. A thumb drive. This, he said, handing it to me, contains the sound, perfectly preserved. You don't need the machine. Just listen to what's on this drive and let it do the work. But I'll warn you, it's not about listening once and expecting a miracle. It's about consistency, discipline, trust. Play it daily, immerse yourself in it, and let it rewire the way you see money, opportunity, and abundance. I stared at the drive in my hand, its weight feeling heavier than it should. My pulse quickened. Will it really work? I asked, my voice barely more than a whisper. Jason smiled again, but this time it carried a knowing look. It will work as much as you're ready to let it work. If you cling to your doubts, to the mindset that's kept you stuck, it won't do anything. But if you trust it, if you let go of the beliefs that have been holding you back, you'll be amazed at what starts to happen. I felt a rush of emotions, hope, fear, excitement, disbelief, all swirling together in a storm I couldn't contain. But as I stood there, the hum of the machine still resonating in my chest, I realized I had nothing to lose. Nothing else I'd tried had worked. Maybe this was my answer. I looked at Jason, the old man who seemed to carry centuries of wisdom in his gaze. Why me? I asked, my voice trembling. Why give this to me? Jason's eyes softened. Fate, Kevin, because you came here tonight. Because you're ready, even if you don't fully realize it yet. And because I've been waiting for someone like you, someone desperate enough to see this for what it really is. I nodded, clutching the thumb drive like it was a lifeline. As I left Jason's house that night, stepping back into the cold forest air, I felt different, lighter, hopeful. For the first time in years, I wasn't weighed down by fear or doubt. I was carrying something far more powerful, a key to a life I'd only ever dreamed of. That night, I plugged the drive into my laptop, put on my headphones and pressed play. The sound washed over me, filling the room with its strange, otherworldly rhythm. And that's when it began the shift, the transformation, the abundance. At first, nothing seemed to change. I woke up the next morning to the same problems, the same anxieties tugging at me. But something was different, subtle, but there. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but I felt lighter, as if a weight I hadn't even noticed was starting to lift. About 5 days later, I was rummaging through an old box in the attic, searching for a folder I needed for work. That's when I stumbled across something I hadn't seen in years, my late grandfather's photo album. He'd been a private, frugal man, and though we were never close, I'd held on to the album out of respect. As I pulled it out, it slipped from my hands, hitting the floor with a loud thud. The spine cracked open, and to my surprise, something fluttered out. It wasn't just photographs. Inside the broken spine of the album, carefully folded and hidden, were stacks of cash. My heart stopped. I knelt down, picking up the bills with trembling hands. I counted them twice just to be sure, and each time the total came to $8,500. I sat there in stunned silence, staring at the money. Suddenly, it made sense. My grandfather had always hated banks. He'd once joked about burying his savings in a coffee can, but I never thought he'd actually do something like this. It felt like a gift, as if he'd left it there for me to find at just the right moment. But that wasn't all. A few days later, my boss called me into his office. I braced myself, expecting the usual criticism or extra workload. Instead, he closed the door, sat down, and smiled. A rare occurrence for him. "Kevin," he began, "I've been watching you these past few months. You've been consistent, hardworking, and frankly, you've never once complained, even when things got tough. I want to reward that." He handed me a letter, and as I opened it, my eyes widened in disbelief. It wasn't just a promotion, it was a life-changing leap forward. The letter detailed my new role as senior manager, a position I'd quietly dreamed of, but never thought I'd actually achieve. My salary had been tripled, from barely scraping by to an incredible $8,000 a month. And as if that wasn't enough, the letter also mentioned a generous bonus that brought my total earnings for the month to nearly $10,000. I felt my hands tremble as I looked up at my boss, struggling to find the words to thank him. For a moment, I could barely speak, the lump in my throat too big to ignore. "Thank you," I finally managed, my voice shaky. "Thank you so much for believing in me." As I left his office, the weight of what had just happened hit me all at once. For years, I had felt stuck, overlooked, undervalued, and underpaid. And now, in what felt like the blink of an eye, my entire career had transformed. My mind raced with possibilities. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was just surviving. I was finally starting to thrive. Things started to shift in my personal life, too. My wife, who had been so distant and frustrated, seemed lighter as well. Our arguments faded, replaced by real conversations. We started laughing again, connecting in ways we hadn't in years. She even commented on how I seemed different, calmer, more present. By the end of the month, when I tallied everything up, I was floored. Between the cash I'd found, the raise from my promotion, and a few other unexpected opportunities, a freelance gig I hadn't anticipated, I had manifested over $23,000 in just 30 days. I couldn't keep this to myself. I had to share it with Jason. I returned to the forest, retracing my steps to his secluded house. The cold air bit at my skin, but my excitement kept me moving. When I reached his door, I knocked eagerly, clutching the thumb drive in my pocket. He opened the door, his expression calm but expectant, as if he knew I'd be back. "Jason," I began, unable to hide the excitement in my voice. "You were right. This sound, it's changed everything. My entire reality has turned around." Jason nodded, listening patiently as I recounted everything. The money I'd found, the promotion, the improved relationship with my wife. When I finished, I looked at him, expecting him to share in my excitement, but his expression remained serious. "That's why I was careful about who I gave this to," he said finally. "This sound, this frequency, it's powerful. But power in the wrong hands can be dangerous. That's why I've limited it to 47 people." "Why 47?" I asked, confused. Jason's eyes darkened slightly. "Because not everyone is ready for it. This isn't just a sound, it's a tool, one that can create immense abundance, but only if used with the right intentions. I've chosen 47 people, based on fate and timing, to have access to it. No more, no less. Once those 47 are reached, I won't share it again. I felt a pang of gratitude and responsibility. But why me? I asked. Why was I one of them? Jason smiled faintly, his eyes glinting with a mix of wisdom and mystery. Because you were ready, and because fate brought you here. The universe doesn't make mistakes. And as I walked back to my car, the weight of what he'd said settled over me. This wasn't just the start of my journey, it was a chance to change everything, forever. What I'm about to share with you is something extraordinary, something that has already transformed my life and the lives of others who were lucky enough to discover it. Jason called it the stellar abundance frequency, and I can confidently say it's unlike anything you've ever experienced before. This isn't just sound. It's not some relaxing background music or a meditation track you'd find online. This is a frequency not found on Earth, something discovered during the Apollo 11 mission, the same mission that put humans on the moon. What the world didn't know, and what Jason revealed to me, is that this frequency isn't just calming, it's powerful. It taps into an unseen energy, aligning your mind and spirit with abundance itself. Let me be clear, this isn't about luck, hard work, or any of the tired advice you've been given about money and success. The stellar abundance frequency bypasses all of that. It works by reprogramming the subconscious patterns that have been keeping you stuck, activating a state where money, opportunities, and success naturally flow to you. When you listen to this daily, as Jason advised, you'll start to notice things shift. At first, it might seem subtle, a sense of calm, small opportunities appearing out of nowhere. But then, as you continue to tune in, the results become undeniable. Promotions, unexpected windfalls, and relationships improving as the energy of abundance transforms your reality. Here's the truth. It's guaranteed to work. I don't say that lightly. The stellar abundance frequency has been tested and refined to perfection, and the results speak for themselves. Look at my story. In just 30 days, I went from drowning in debt and barely scraping by to manifesting over $23,000. My relationships healed, my career soared, and my financial stress vanished. But here's the catch and why this page exists for a very limited time. Jason was clear about one thing. This frequency isn't for everyone. He limited it to 47 people only, chosen by fate and timing, because he believes that abundance must go to those who are ready for it, not those who will misuse it. Once those 47 spots are filled, this opportunity will be gone, forever. The page will be taken down, and the frequency will no longer be available to anyone else. Why so exclusive? Jason didn't want this to fall into the wrong hands. He wanted it to go to people who would value it, respect it, and use it to improve their lives, not to those who would hoard it or abuse its power. He didn't spend decades in hiding, protecting this secret, only for his efforts to be wasted on those who wouldn't understand its true purpose. This frequency is more than just a tool. It's a responsibility, and Jason was determined to ensure it would only be entrusted to those who are truly ready for it. And before you wonder, let me tell you, I'm not making a single cent from this. I'm not doing this for profit. Every bit of proceeds goes toward maintaining the security and integrity of this page, ensuring that only the right people, those 47 chosen by fate, gain access to this life-changing frequency. You might be asking yourself, is this really for me? The answer is simple. If you're here, if you've read this far, then something has already guided you to this moment. You weren't here by accident. Just like Jason said to me that night, you're ready even if you don't fully realize it yet. The question is, are you going to take this chance? Because once the 47 spots are gone, this door will close forever. All it takes is one step to change your life. Will you take it? Imagine waking up just weeks from now and realizing the weight of your struggles has lifted. Imagine opening your bank account and seeing numbers that once seemed impossible, numbers that bring you peace, freedom, and a sense of security you've only dreamed of. Picture yourself living the life you've always wanted, free from stress, free from worry, and filled with unshakable confidence in the future. This isn't just wishful thinking. It's the power of the stellar abundance frequency. And it's waiting for you to take the first step. Click the button below to claim your access now. But remember, Jason made this clear. The opportunity is limited. Only 47 people will gain access to this frequency, and once those slots are filled, this page will disappear forever. No second chances, no extensions. Fate brought you here for a reason. Will you take control of your destiny, or will you let this slip through your fingers? The choice is yours, but don't wait too long. The 47 slots are disappearing fast, and once they're gone for good. Your abundance is waiting. Act now and make it yours.